The title of this book is Catherine Called Birdy. It is written by Karen Cushman and was published in 1994. It is a Newbery Award winner. We'll be reading this book together with you following along on the screen. When you see this stop sign image, it means I am asking you to stop the video and either make predictions, check vocabulary, or answer some comprehension questions about what we're reading. You can pause the video by pressing the space bar or the pause button. Restart the video by pressing the same button again. What predictions can you make about the book from the picture on the cover? Who do you think Catherine might be? Beneath the title, the cover states she's not your average damsel in distress. What does this tell you about the book? Look at the girl's right hand. What is she doing? She's tugging on a rope that's connected to a bucket that's over a doorway. There's a man walking through the doorway. Look at the smile on the girl's face. What do these things tell you about the girl on the cover of the book? What time period do you think the book takes place in? What makes you say that? There's a man in the background that is older than the girl in the foreground. Can you make a guess about who the man might be? The man beneath the bucket wears very fancy clothing and shoes. In fact, his shoes have high heels. He wears a doublet. It may look to you like a dress, and he wears hose, like pantyhose. He carries a lute, a kind of stringed instrument like a guitar. Look at his face. Compare the ages of the man and the girl. Who do you think is older? What do you think the man wants? Stop the video now and write down some predictions based on your observation of the book's cover in box 1. This book is an example of epistolary fiction. Fiction means it is invented or made up by the author. In this case, the book is a novel and tells the story of things that did not really happen. Epistolary means that events that are in this book are told in chronological order or the order in which they occur. It is as though we are reading a series of letters or diary entries by the narrator. In this novel, they are journal entries. If at any time you have questions about what we are reading or don't understand something, copy down the date. That way we can look up things later and try to see if we can understand these things together. September. 12th day of September. I am commanded to write an account of my days. I am bit by fleas and plagued by family. That is all there is to say. I am commanded to write an account of my days. What things can we already tell from this statement? What do we already know about the narrator? Is the narrator happy about writing this book? How can you tell? I am plagued by family. What do you think plagued by family means? Plague is a deadly and contagious disease. If the narrator is plagued by her family, what do you suppose she is saying about them? Is she saying good things or not good things? 13th day of September. My father must suffer from alehead this day, for he cracked me twice before dinner instead of once. I hope his angry liver bursts. Comprehension check. Let's check your comprehension about what's going on in the text. Are there words in the section you don't understand? Alehead. What does this word mean? Ale is like beer, an alcoholic beverage. If you drink too much, you'll become ill with a headache and a sour stomach. He cracked me twice before dinner instead of once. What does cracked mean in this context? What is the narrator's relationship with the father like? I hope his angry liver bursts. What is the narrator wishing on the father? Do you think the narrator is justified in feeling this way? Stop the video now and answer the questions in box 2 to check your comprehension. 14th day of September. Tangled my spinning again. Corpus bones, what a torture. This medieval painting shows Mary, the mother of Jesus, sitting and spinning. Spinning is turning wool from a sheep into thread. In this painting, you can see Mary pinching the thread between the fingers of her left hand and a bobbin on to which the thread is wound, dangling from her right hand. The wool is being pulled into thread and is in front of Mary's knees, wrapped neatly to keep it from tangling. In the Middle Ages, spinning was work done primarily by women. Corpus bones, what a torture! What does the narrator feel about spinning? What do you think corpus bones might mean? 15th day of September. Today the sun shone and the villagers sowed hay, gathered apples, and pulled fish from the stream. I, trapped inside, spent 2 hours embroidering a cloth for the church and 3 hours picking out my stitches after my mother saw it. I wish I were a villager. What can you tell about the narrator? Can you read between the lines? The narrator is probably a girl, because both spinning and embroidery, a type of sewing, were work done primarily by women in the Middle Ages. The narrator is also not good at either spinning or embroidery. She says she spends several hours at her sewing, and then her mother makes her undo all the sewing she's done after judging it not quite good enough. The narrator would rather be doing other things. She describes what is happening outside her window and said she would rather be doing those things, the things that the villagers or peasants are doing, than what she herself was doing. She would even prefer planting hay, picking apples, or fishing, anything other than what she's supposed to be doing, her embroidery. 16th day of September. Spinning. Tangled. 17th day of September. Untangled. 18th day of September. If my brother Edward thinks that writing this account of my days will help me grow less childish and more learned, he will have to write it. I will do this no longer, and I will not spin, and I will not eat. Less childish indeed. When you summarize, you tell only the most important parts of the things you've just read in your book. Write a brief summary of what just happened. Summarize what you've read in box number 3. 19th day of September. I am delivered. My mother and I have made a bargain. I may forego spinning as long as I write this account for Edward. My mother is not much for writing, but has it in her heart to please Edward, especially now he is gone to be a monk, and I could do worse things to escape the foolish boredom of spinning. So I will write. What follows will be my book, the book of Catherine, called Little Bird or Birdy, daughter of Rollo and the Lady Aislinn, sister to Thomas, Edward, and the abominable Robert, of the village of Stonebridge, in the shire of Lincoln, in the country of England, in the hands of God. Begun this 19th day of September, in the year of our Lord, 1290, the 14th year of my life. The skins are my father's, left over from the household accounts, and the ink also. The writing I learned from my brother Edward, but the words are my own. Picked off 29 fleas today. Answer the comprehension questions in box number 4. You may have to go back and look at the passage. Rewind the video if you need to. What information have we learned about the narrator? We now know her name. Birdy's full name is Catherine. We also know the names of the people in her family. Her parents are Rollo and the Lady Aislinn. Lady means her mother is a member of the nobility. It is a title to indicate she belongs to a class of very powerful people. Birdy has 3 brothers, Thomas, Edward, and Robert, whom she does not seem to like much. We know where Birdy lives. She lives in a village called Stonebridge, in a shire or county called Lincoln, in a country, England. We know when the story takes place. Birdy is writing in the year 1290. We know how old she is. She says she's 14. We know where she got her writing materials. She is not writing on paper, but the skins of animals, which is what books were written on during the Middle Ages. We also know who taught Birdy to write. Her brother Edward, who is left home to become a monk, a person in the church, taught her to read and write. During the Middle Ages, not very many people were able to either read or to write. In fact, it was very unusual for a man to be able to read and write, much less a woman. The fact that Birdy is able to read and write makes her very, very unusual. Does Birdy realize this? Picked off 29 fleas today. Despite being the daughter of Lady Aislinn, a member of the nobility, what kind of conditions do you suppose Birdy lives in if she's troubled by fleas? 20th day of September. Today I chased a rat about the hall with a broom and set the broom afire, ruined my embroidery, threw it in the privy, ate too much for dinner, hid in the barn and sulked, teased the littlest kitchen boy until he cried, turned the mattresses, took the linens outside for airing, hid from Morwenna and her endless chores, ate supper, brought in the forgotten linen, now wet with dew, endured the scolding and slapping from Morwenna, pinched Perkin, and went to bed. And having writ this, Edward, I feel no less childish or more learned than I was. Is Edward's plan working? Edward, Birdy's brother, wanted her to learn to read and write to make her less childish and more learned. Based on Birdy's day on September 20th, do you think it's working? Would Birdy agree with you? 21st day of September. Something is astir. I can feel my father's eyes following me about the hall, regarding me as he would a new war horse or bull bought for breeding. I am surprised he is not asked to examine my hooves. And he asks me questions, the beast who never speaks to me except with the flat of his hand to my cheek or my rump. This morning, exactly how old are you, daughter? This forenoon, have you all your teeth? Is your breath sweet or foul? Are you a good eater? What color is your hair when it is clean? Before supper. How are your sewing and your bowels and your conversation? What is brewing here? Sometimes I miss my brother, even the abominable Robert. With Robert and Thomas away in the king's service, and Edward at his abbey, there are fewer people about for my father to bother, so mostly he fixes upon me. What does Birdy notice? How does she feel about it? Pause the video now and answer the questions in box number 5 about how Birdy is feeling and thinking about her conversations with her father. 22nd day of September. I am prisoner to my needle again today, hemming linen in the solar with my mother and her women. This chamber is pleasant, large and sunny, with my mother and father's big bed on one side, and on the other a window that looks out on the world I could be enjoying if I were not in here sewing. I can see, across the yard, past the stables and privy and cowshed, to the river and the gatehouse, over the fields to the village beyond. Cottages line the dusty road leading to the church at the far end. Dogs and geese and children tumble and play while villagers plow. Would I were tumbling, or even plowing, with them. Here in my prison, my mother works and gossips with her women as if she didn't mind being chained to needle and spindle. My nurse Morwenna, now that I am near grown and not in need of her nursing, tortures me with complaints about the length of my stitches and the color of my silk and the thumbprint on the altar cloth I am hemming. If I had to be born a lady, why not a rich lady? So someone else could do the work and I could lie in a silken bed and listen to a beautiful minstrel sing while my servants hemmed. Instead, I am the daughter of a country knight with but 10 servants, 70 villagers, no minstrel, and acres of unhemmed linen. It grumbles my guts. I do not know what the sky is like today or whether the berries have ripened. Has Perkin's best goat dropped her kid yet? Did Wat the farrier finally beat Syme at wrestling? I do not know. I am trapped inside hemming. Morwenna says it is the altar cloth for me. Corpus bones. What are Birdy's complaints? How does Birdy feel about her life? What are some of the things that Birdy wishes to know? Are there things about the story so far that you want to know? Pause the video now to answer the questions in box number 6 about some of the complaints about Birdy's life. You may need to rewind the video to rehear that section of the book. Context. Can you tell by the context what has happened to Birdy from this entry in the book? 23rd day of September. There was a hanging in Riverford today. I am being punished for impudence again, so I was not allowed to go. I am near 14 and have never yet seen a hanging. My life is barren. Vocabulary. What words do you not recognize from this passage? Pause this video and find those words. Take a moment to write them down. Pause the video now to write down the words in this section that you don't recognize in box number 7 that says vocabulary. Birdy says she's being punished for impudence. What is impudence? Impudence has the word imp in it. Can you guess what impudence might mean? Barren is the opposite of fertile, able to grow things, but it can also mean plain or uninteresting. Why is Birdy describing her life as barren? 24th day of September. The stars in my family align to make my life black and miserable. My mother seeks to make me a fine lady, dumb, docile, and accomplished. So I must take lady lessons and keep my mouth closed. My brother Edward thinks even girls should not be ignorant, so he taught me to read holy books and to write, even though I would rather sit in an apple tree and wonder. Now my father, the toad, conspires to sell me like a cheese to some lackwit seeking a wife. What makes this clodpole suitor anxious to have me? I am no beauty, being sun-browned and gray-eyed with poor eyesight and a stubborn disposition. My family holds but 2 small manors. We have plenty of cheese and apples, but no silver or jewels or boundless acres to attract a suitor. Corpus bones, he comes to dine with us in 2 days' time. I plan to cross my eyes and drool in my meat. Word study. Clodpole. If you take this word apart into its 2 pieces, clod and pole, you can figure out what this word means. A clod is a hunk of dirt. Pole is the French word for the word head. What does clodpole mean, do you suppose? Even if you don't speak French, you might be able to tell from the context that Birdy's word clodpole is not a respectful term. Lackwit. You can also figure out what lackwit might mean by taking apart this word. Lack means missing, and wit is another word for intelligence. So, what does lackwit mean, do you think? Vocabulary. Suitor. What does the word suitor mean? A suitor is a term used for a man who wishes to marry a woman. In the past, such as in the Middle Ages when this book is set, a suitor would have to ask a father's permission to marry his daughter. Sometimes the daughter would not be given a choice in the matter. From this passage, does it sound as if Birdy has a choice in her suitor? What does Birdy's mother want for her? What does Edward, her brother, want for her? What does Birdy's father want for her? What does her father plan to do with Birdy? What does Birdy plan to do? Make a prediction about what you've just read. What do you think will happen in this story? What will Birdy do? How will it work out for her? Continue reading this book until the end of the September section of this book. Then, in box number 8, summarize what's happened. That means list the important events or things that occur, as if you were telling the story to someone who is not reading the book.